Hello, everybody. Welcome to Away Games, a Chicago Cubs podcast, talking about now a team that is officially good. That's cool. My name is Kevin McCaffrey. I'm here with Adam Mamawala.
Hello.
That's Adam Mamawala. That's the one I said. How about that? This is, I guess, coming off the best week so far. We are now, right?
Oh, for sure. I mean, we're recording this Tuesday, so coming off a frustrating loss last night. But, I mean, those are going to happen, and when they don't happen in streaks like they did early in the season, it's a lot, more palatable, I think.
Yes, it sucked that that loss to the Marlins sucked a whole bunch, but also it's, those losses just do happen. It's weird. Pedro Strop doesn't walk 3 out of 4 bad hitters usually. I don't anticipate he will do that a lot again.
Usually pitchers don't forget how their brain works and throw to first instead of home when they have someone hung up. That's also something that doesn't happen.
Yeah, the Kyle Ryan play was very Little League-esque, that is...
It was very strange.
Yeah. I was watching back and forth. I was sort of like following on, just the game day, play-by-play thing, and then getting my phone to actually pick up the video. And so I didn't see that play live when it happened, and I saw, an out, but then he scored. How'd that happen? And it was much, much weirder and worse than I had anticipated just from reading it. So, yeah, it's a fluky loss, and you can say Taylor Davis hitting a grand slam leads to possibly a fluky win against the Cardinals.
Right. I think that's a fair way to say it. Like, the Cubs probably should have lost Saturday, and they definitely should have won last night.
Right, exactly. And if you're going to have one of those two, beating the Cardinals is a lot more fun. And that was great. So, yeah, it was basically, we were hoping to take 2 or 3 from the Cardinals and split with the Mariners and would have been happy with that and did a whole lot better.
Yeah, and I think, when you look at the 7-game win streak, I don't think there was a time really all of last year that at least I felt as good as I have during this recent stretch, which is a good sign.
Totally. Yeah, I mean, it's a thing right now where every pitcher, every starting pitcher looks like if the playoffs started today, Yu Darvish would not make your playoff rotation. And right. that is both bad and good. That is bad. Because Yu Darvish should be better than this, and he, to this point, does not do that. But everyone else looks great, so that's awesome. The team's ERA has been better than anyone in the majors by a lot,
Yeah, and Hamels was like average last night, but I think generally speaking, the Cubs should be able to beat the Marlins when your starter goes 6 innings and gives up 3 runs. I mean, that's literally the definition of a quality start. So absolutely, and the Cubs should be beating the Marlins. I mean, they should be beating the Marlins with a bullpen game. They should be beating the Marlins with Carlos Zambrano today pitching. Mm-hmm. You should just be beating the Marlins. So hopefully they do that the rest of the time. But also, it's been fun. Not only team being good, but it has been fun to see individual guys starting to get hot right now when you need it too. Well, yeah, I mean, there's been so much talk about if something is wrong with KB and he's sapped of his power and all of that, and he has shown that not to be the case. I mean, I think I saw or heard recently that his hard hit rate is up to levels that it hasn't been since 2016. So. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he's been killing the ball lately, and the big difference is that a couple of those balls are going over the fence now, which they weren't before. Obviously, there was the grand slam against the Cardinals, which was very nice. The game was mostly decided at that point, but 4 runs is good anytime. And that was a straightaway center, and then the homer he hit to left in the 9th against the Marlins on Monday. That, I think they said, was his hardest hit homer in 2 years, too.
Well, and what was nice about it was it had that like vintage Bryant home run sort of look. Not that I'm not happy with home runs however they come, but to see him kind of pull it and really, I mean, that ball would have been on Waveland before the expanded bleachers.
Yes, exactly. But I'm down for a conspiracy theory that the Brewers have expanded beyond what the rules of this league have allowed.
They're using 30 guys and switching jerseys, so nobody noticed.
3 people are Eric Thames. That's what I'm going to say. Muscle wise, that's actually true, but
that is.
That Kris Bryant homer on Monday was 111.4 miles an hour. Hardest batted ball this year and hardest hit home run since July of 2017. So,
jeez.
Yeah. So and really seeing him hit the ball, and, the ball goes over the fence from a winning the game perspective. That's all you need. But from an individual perspective, it is nice seeing, okay, he's hitting the ball harder. That seems to say to me that the health is okay. And if the health is okay, if the shoulder's okay, then he's very good,
Yeah, totally. So, you've got him really coming into a really nice stretch here. Rizzo has been great.
Mm-hmm. Rizzo's been
continues to be.
Rizzo's been a maniac lately.
Yeah. Well, it's Rizzo gonna Rizzo sort of thing. This has been, not that he hasn't been an extremely consistent player numbers wise, but he's always kind of been that kind of guy where he'll go on a tear for 2 or 3 weeks, and then he might scuffle a little bit. But ultimately, when you look up at the end of the year, you're looking at 30 and 100.
Yeah, and it's a thing where he's Mr. Consistency year to year, but that doesn't mean you're, every game you go 1 for 3 with a walk. It's
right.
He gets to that consistency a little streakily, I think, and it's on an awesome streak right now. Willson Contreras is still the best catcher in the league by a good amount, and he's still hammering the ball.
Still bat flipping on walks.
Bat flipping the walks, loving that. Javy, it seems to have a very simple plan, which is just curveballs he pulls and hits really hard. Fastballs he hits to the right side very hard, and that's it.
And honestly, seeing him use right center the way he has is more satisfying to me than seeing him do the typical Javy, Mike Piazza two-handed follow-through, crushing a ball to left field.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, and it feels very sustainable. It seems like it is a simple approach that a guy with his level of ability can maintain. And it's just this is how he handles velocity. He doesn't need to pull velocity to get it over the fence. He knows that, and he's really comfortable going the other way with it now. And it's been a lot of homers to right field, but it's also been a good amount of doubles out there too, doubles and a couple of triples. So it's nice that he seems so comfortable that way, and seems like a very repeatable approach, which is great, because that's the whole thing with Javy is just we thought you get this ability somewhat consistent, and it's a top couple of players in the league, and that's exactly what it's been.
Yeah, and I think, is there anything that you think has been that's a negative that's been masked by the winning streak? Is there anything that you feel like is going to, come back around for the Cubs that's been better than it should be ordinarily?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think the only thing is that the pitching probably can't be this good. The pitching, specifically the relief pitching. The Cubs have the best bullpen in baseball since they had the worst bullpen in baseball. So they had the worst pen through that 2-7 run, and now by ERA they've had the best pen by I think it's nearly a run. So they're not going to be that good, and some of that regression happened yesterday, which led to the loss. So I think that's the thing. But it does seem like the approach, which I don't love it. I would still like Craig Kimbrell. I think Craig Kimbrell would have made sense in the offseason too. But the Cubs' sort of approach to just getting as many interesting, pretty good arms as they can and letting it shake out seems to be shaking out okay now.
Yeah, and Carl Edwards Jr. 1-2-3 inning last night, which is a great sign. He didn't strike anybody out, so I don't know if that's necessarily a cause for concern, but I think especially, I don't know if you were watching at that point, but he on the first batter was 3-0 and then battled back and got that out. And I feel like just mentally that's got to be huge. Not to mention the fact that this is his first game back in a long time, and Joe immediately puts him into a tied game in the 7th inning.
I thought that was really interesting. You would think kind of high risk, high reward for Carl, just how his mentality is. And one thing Edwards said was that more than mechanics, he felt like he was working on his mental game down on the farm. He gave a shout out to John Baker, one of the Cubs' mental skills guys, fun former backup catcher. He said they worked together a lot, and he felt like he was in a good place. And coming back from a 3-0 count, which by the way, one of those was a clear strike too, so he got jobbed on one of those pitches. But coming back when fans are, it's a 1-run game, and fans are feeling antsy about him anyway. And when Carl doesn't have it, he can really not have it. I totally agree. I thought that was great. I am a little worried about how far Carl's velocity seems to have dipped in the last 2 years, because he used to sit 96, 97. 97 and touched 98 with an occasional.
And now it's what, like 94?
It was basically 93 all of last night, topped 94 a couple of times. But yeah, so I don't know if that's some guys just, you know, their arms get warmer as they get into the year or what. But and Carl is a guy who doesn't need to be at the top of the velocity chain. The way his fastball moves, it's hard for guys to square up. So that, you know, that might be fine, but you know, it is a little worrying when a guy is as young as Carl is, and the velocity's dropping a few ticks, you know.
Yeah, totally. And I mean, all of this is happening while there are still guys who may be useful reinforcements not ready yet. Because you got to, you know, it sounds like Montgomery is going to be ready pretty soon, from what I understand, and then obviously Cedeno and Barnett.
Right.
Yeah.
So that's interesting. And those three guys, and Dylan Maples, by the way, ended up being pretty great in his run-up here.
Oh, my God. That inning, I mean, you know, it was in a blowout, but that ninth inning against the Mariners, I mean, I think you'd be hard-pressed to find anybody making batters look like that.
Yeah.
That was unbelievable.
We got follow us on Twitter and Instagram at awaygamespod, but we tweeted about it, like, let's get a GIF of this, and then one of our follower friends tagged the pitching ninja in it, and then a GIF was made of Maples' slider making Edwin Encarnacion, a great hitter, look absolutely ridiculous the way he dove out of the way and swung at it. And that was the last strike of the game, and it looked like he was so confused he just wandered around for a minute. He swung at it, and then he started walking towards the Cubs dugout, and then went the other way. And that. So we're talking about a guy, Dylan Maples, there, who still, you know, obviously just needs to keep the ball sort of in the zone. But that's between him, Cedeno, as you said, Barnett, and Montgomery coming back. It's hard to find. It's hard to find spots in this bullpen.
Totally, and sorry to say that I think somebody like a Kyle Ryan makes it a lot harder for my boy Randy Rosario to have a spot on this team.
Rosario too, yeah, exactly. And Ryan's had insane peripherals. You know, he's just getting more swings and misses than just about anybody. The results have been great. Yeah, Rosario's another major league caliber arm down there. The thing is basically it is a team where it's a lot of guys you feel comfortable with in not the very highest leverage situation. You know, It's a lot of good and that is a non-technical, terribly analytical way to speak about it. But it feels like a lot of really good middle inning guys. You know, and it's not a lot of guys who you have a ton of confidence can come in with runners on the corners and nobody out and blow through it. You know. It's a lot
but you know, on the other hand, you do also have multiple people in that bullpen who have closing experience. So you know, Cishek and Kinsler and obviously Strop. I mean that save that Cishek got against the Mariners, that was like a highlight of the year, I'd say, just his reaction to it.
Absolutely. He knew how big that was, and he did a great job with it. And that is very true. The Cubs have a lot of guys who have had a lot of saves in the season. Brad Brock too has been was a closer as well. And speaking of velocity, his velocity is up to 95 again. So after he got the kissing disease, everything's been great. He was right. He told everyone.
He still has a little bit of the walking disease.
But. Yes, a little bit. Yeah, the peripherals on that guy are not good, but I think he is starting to come around a bit. What the bullpen does have, it's a lot of guys who get a lot of ground balls. You know, it's not a typical 2019 Major League high velocity bullpen, top to bottom, outside of your guys like Maples. You know. But it is a lot of guys who get an insane amount of ground balls. Kyle Ryan gets a ton of ground balls. Brandon Kinsler and Steve Cishek are extreme ground ball guys, which with a good defensive infield, you know, is big. So I don't know. I think if there's any regression, that would probably be it. And then you know, I don't know. Is Willson Contreras going to OPS 1100 for the year? No, probably. But also, I don't know, maybe. He's really good. He's incredibly good offensively. So I think we mentioned it. You tweeted the other day, like the narrative around Willson being overrated or not being as good as it doesn't really make a lot of sense because it's based on a very small amount of data from a very specific period of time where he was struggling. Yeah, exactly. And I think we retweeted this at the Away Games Pod. Forgive me, I forget exactly who tweeted it, but someone said something similar about Carl Edwards too. Carl Edwards and Willson Contreras are both guys who basically had a really tough second half of last year. Second half, or maybe even more than a half, but basically the latter part of last year were not good. But both guys were also guys who had elite profiles for longer before that and are still young players. So it is weird that both Edwards and Contreras were guys coming into this year. People, I think, thought, we don't know what we have with this guy. Is he good? Can he be trusted? Whatever. When the track record was pretty much there. They each had one prolonged slump. And hopefully Willson's already come all the way back, and hopefully that's what Carl's doing now. Yeah,
absolutely. And it was funny you mentioned John Baker before. I'm a big fan of backup catchers on the Cubs having a game that will become known as their signature game, because there was the John Baker game. I don't know if you remember that.
Of course.
Many moons ago, and we definitely have the Taylor Davis game now.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Tell us about the Taylor Davis game.
Well, were you watching that game?
I was on the subway meeting up with a cousin of mine who got kicked off a reality show. I got a text from a cousin who was on a reality show. I can't say which one, but he was eliminated, and so he hit me up to see if we could hang out. So I was on the subway. And as you know, when you're traveling in the subway in New York, you'll have moments with signal, moments without. So I was following the Cubs game on my phone. But then when I finally got signal, I just had like 4 texts just like screaming Taylor Davis. I was like, did he kill somebody? What happened? Exactly. And he kind of did. He killed Michael Wacha, I think, right?
He did. Yeah. And it doesn't matter who is coming to the plate. It could be Jose Quintana. If the bases are loaded and you're down by 4, your mind goes there. You know what I mean? Like you're thinking like, well, that would be great if he tied the game with one swing.
Yeah.
And I tweeted and a couple people, as will always happen on Twitter, took exception to it. But
I saw our mentions are blowing up that day.
Yeah,
more notifications than mentions. Only a couple mentions.
Yeah, I think more people liked it than took issue with it. But I said, like, this is a guy who has spent the majority of his career in the minors. I believe last week I referred to him as the road dog comic version of a baseball player, like someone who's just like, yeah, this is fun. Like I like being in Iowa.
Yeah,
and
yeah, exactly.
I don't know Taylor Davis. I'm sure he would love to be an everyday major league player, but the reality is that's probably not his future. Like there's no reason to believe that he's going to be somebody who's going to stick in the big leagues. I hope he does. Who knows? But,
right, to be a start, he's 29 years old, and sometimes catchers do mature late. But he hasn't been to this point. He's 29.
Right, and what came to mind for me is like I'm certainly not rooting against the guy.
No, he's great.
But no matter what happens, he might play another 2 games or have a long career. That is going to be a moment that people remember forever, and he's going to be able to tell people about. And that's what's so cool about baseball is that like there's the opportunity for that sort of thing to happen on any given day where somebody can do something that will probably never happen again in their lives.
Yeah, and he's a bit of a talking about like little moments like that you'll always have no matter what else happens. And as comedians, it's like we have that too. As comedians who aren't famous, it's like you get little career highlights here and there and things that you get to keep.
Right.
Like we both have an album out, and that's something that like cool that exists forever. This is something.
No one can take it away from you. And,
yes, exactly. And it's like when I did Letterman, that was what I always said was like, oh, this is, if I'm a failure from here on out, which by the way, getting pretty close. So but if I am then this video will always exist. I think that's like the major league home run. And Taylor Davis had a grand slam, tied the game against the Cubs' biggest rival at home too. All those things make it more fun. And Taylor Davis in his previous one of his previous brief stints with the majors, he helped kill the Cardinals off from a season. So he is a Cardinal killer at this point.
Oh, so was that like at the end of 2017?
Yeah, I think he was he had like an RBI double. Jen Ho-Sang got the win, and Leonis Martin robbed the home run to kill off the Cardinals.
Yeah, we were watching that game together.
Yeah, exactly. So Taylor Davis.
Cardinal killer Taylor Davis.
I know he's not been up here a lot, but when he's up here, he fucking kills the Cardinals. So
would that have been his first major league hit? I think it might have been.
It might have been. This was his first major league homer.
Yeah.
So that's another thing. This home run gave him, when you get called up to the majors, it's like getting called up. That's huge the first time, obviously. Getting into a game in any way is crossing off another thing, getting that first hit, and then getting that first homer. Like, there's really not a lot more check marks from beyond that as far as, the first level. If you're doing the major leagues like a video game where you're crossing off early achievements and stuff, then yeah, sure, make millions of dollars and win World Series and shit. But these are like, it's great that Taylor Davis, who seems to be by all accounts an amazing guy. Also, Joe Maddon said that the analytics guys within the Cubs organization say that they are really excited about his framing. As well.
Oh, he's a very good defensive catcher, for sure. And I think, hopefully that could give him a career. You know what I mean? Like, obviously I think his bat in general, Grand Slam notwithstanding, is the concern when it comes to Davis. That's the reason that he's not in the bigs consistently.
Right, but he's also, not that Blake Swihart is an amazing player, but he's a major leaguer. He was a top prospect type, and I saw Taylor Davis's numbers against Swihart's, and Davis has been better in the minors and against the same competition. So his swing doesn't look like he's got a funky bod, he's got a funky setup, and the swing is weird looking, but he's been a decent hitter at Iowa. Not like never huge power numbers, but a decent hitter,
right?
And a good framing, decent hitter who seems to be a great clubhouse guy who really likes working with the pitchers. Like that could be a backup catcher profile.
Definitely, and I also think that while Darvish did not pitch particularly well on Saturday, partially because he was wild, and also partially because there was some BABIP-related bad luck.
Yeah, a little goofiness.
Involved. Yeah, like I am more than fine with Davis catching Darvish until Caratini's ready, if for no other reason than Contreras needs a break.
100%. I think he has to. Like, you need to be not starting Willson Contreras 5 days in a row. I don't want to see that.
Because, like, he's been able, Wilson's been able to play most of the time because the Cubs mercifully have seemed to have, like, a reasonable amount of off days. But I feel like they're now in a stretch, at the very least, they're in a stretch where they're playing 10 home games in a row. Mm-hmm. So, I don't think it would be prudent to have Willson start that many games, as spry as he may be.
Sure, and even if guys are healthy, even if everyone's healthy, I think because the Cubs again have a schedule that really bunches up at the end of the year. I don't know how that happened when we just saw what happened last year, but they do. And so I think once September comes around, I wouldn't be surprised at all, even if the Cubs don't get another catcher, to see sort of a 3-catcher roster up there, to try to space out those games a little bit more. But it's awesome to see Taylor Davis do that, and so great that the Cubs could make it count, and Javy, banged one over the right field wall to finish that game off.
Yeah, absolutely, and that was cool too, because it was preceded immediately by a ball down the right field line that was a little bloop that looked like it could have been a double, but ended up, I think Wong misplayed it and they called it foul, and at the time you're like, oh man, that would have been a leadoff double, and then I think next pitch he goes yard, but that was just, that's an early candidate for game of the year, I would say.
Oh yeah, for like a signature game. Yeah, it was one of those when you see 5-1 after 5 innings and you Darvish there, you just mentally start being like, well, that's the loss in this series. Hopefully we can take the series tomorrow. And getting a Taylor Davis Grand Slam, it feels like such a bonus comeback. And then the bullpen shut it down. I think that is such a signature thing. And really, I think, it's got to bum the Cardinals out too, because they almost evened up the series right there, and then get swept the hell out of town, blown out in the third game.
That's always been the thing with baseball. Like the way it's formatted, where there's so many 3-game series, it's such a huge difference between even just salvaging one of the 3 versus getting swept, because it's a 2-game swing.
Absolutely. Yeah. What just a great series. And then hopefully they just straighten things out here against the Marlins. But
it's unfortunate when a trap game becomes exactly that. I think that's like the best way to describe it. Like, you're coming off this huge high against St. Louis. You've just in 1 month, you've gone from being the worst team in the division, granted early in the year, but the worst team in the division, to first place. And all anybody can talk about is how well you're playing, when a month ago all anybody could talk about was, well, I guess this is it for the Cubs, and their bullpen is trash, and they're going to, I guess Pacoda was right, and they're going to...
Yeah, your ass seems to be staying tatless for the moment. It's at least trending tatless.
Absolutely. I think if I make a little sound clip for this episode, it's just going to be that statement isolated with no context.
Yeah, perfectly. Yeah, make a GIF. You're right. The Miami series here, it's 4 games against Miami, which should be good. You
go into that saying you got to win 3 of those 4. So now the Cubs have put themselves in a position where you got to win the next 3, or anything less than that, even a split feels like you kind of missed an opportunity. And again, they probably should have lost Saturday and they won. They probably should have won last night and they didn't. But the games, I guess the best way to say it is like, if you can manage to pull off some wins that you shouldn't have won, but you also win the games that you should win.
Right.
That's the combination you're looking for.
Yeah, exactly.
That gets you in the 90s in terms of wins.
Yeah, and it, as you mentioned, it being sort of like a trap game with Miami, it's kind of a trap series too, because it's in between St. Louis and Milwaukee series, because the Cubs will play Milwaukee this weekend after they finish up with the Marlins, who should be contracted. But it'll be from. And then that'll end the homestand basically with after Milwaukee this weekend. Then they'll get next Monday off.
If I told you that the Cubs would lose 3 of 4 to the Marlins but sweep the Brewers, would you take that?
I would take it, because I think just because of every game counting for 2 against the Brewers. Yeah. I would be very mad early this week, but I've just, I'm at a point in my life where I'm just going to be mad, like a lot. A lot of my days are going to be pretty mad, and I think I'm a fairly friendly guy, but internally, I'm just going to be mad, so that's fine.
Yeah.
And then, but then the joy of sweeping Milwaukee at home would make up for it for me. How about you?
Yeah, I think I would. I mean, I think obviously I would prefer a scenario where Cubs sweep the Brewers and also win the next 3 against the Marlins and just start another 7 or longer game winning streak. But,
agreed. Yeah.
Yeah, I think I would take that trade-off. I think if you can sweep or win series against division rivals, especially the Cardinals and Brewers,
yeah,
I think you're gonna take that over anything else.
That's how you start to create separation in a division that is going to be a real dickhead, this division. Like it has been already. The Cardinals are really good. The Brewers are very good. And the Cardinals are back in first place as we speak by half game, I believe. Both the Brewers and Cardinals won on Monday night. So, yeah, it's a hell of a division. But also the Cubs are, by run differential, the Cubs are the best team in the National League already. Like better than the Dodgers, better than the Phillies, better than everybody.
Yep. And after Sunday night, for a brief period of time before yesterday happened, the Cubs had the best record, winning percentage-wise, in the NL, which is not something that I necessarily even expect for them to end the season with. It would be wonderful if they did, but to just be in that position after the kind of start they had is very encouraging.
Absolutely, yeah. No, I think we both believe in the talent that's on this roster to be the best team in the National League, but just because of how hard this division is, and also for the teams in the East, how hard that division is, that we expect it would be weird if the Dodgers didn't have the best record, just because there's not as much competition over there. They've got the Padres are a funky little bunch. They're doing all right. They got a bunch of young talent over there, but you don't expect them to really push the Dodgers for the division. And then the Rockies are
Yeah, Rockies are and the D-backs I don't think are going to do much, and the Giants are just objectively not good.
Yeah, but it's so it's really, if you looked at the standing, if you could promise we'd be exactly where we are in the standings at the beginning of the year, I think you'd be pretty fine with that. And after the start the Cubs had, boy, that's a bonus.
Oh yeah, and I think even Madden was saying, like, listen, I'm thrilled with where we're at. I would be lying if I told you I thought we would get back in it this quickly.
Yeah, he was saying
I think at 1.1 they won 16 of 20 or something like that.
Right, and Madden was saying usually you make up about a game or 2 a week if you're playing well. You don't usually take them in that kind of a bunch, but that's great. Now we're back. This is we got to get the sound effect for Dennis Green's "They Are Who We Thought They Were," but it's like that seems like they are who we thought they were in a good way, and hopefully it's just not that hopefully they have found this new normal and will continue. We'll continue from there.
Well, yeah, I totally. And I think the only way really to dig yourself out of an early hole is to go on a little run. And they have already done that. So I think, are they going to win 7 straight or more a bunch of times this year? Maybe not, but the fact that I don't think they had a winning streak that long last year, did they? Or
No,
the year before?
in the last 2 years, they didn't have a 20-game run like they just did either.
Right.
I mean, already all those things, basically every indicator we've seen seems to be, to this point, which is very early, that this team is at least as good, if not better, than all the Cubs since 2016. And that's great. So,
Yeah.
if you can be somewhere between the last 2 year versions of the Cubs, between that and the 2016 version of the Cubs, that is a possible World Series winner. So, that's all very good. And I say this, I'm realizing tonight, or it'll be yesterday by the time you hear this, but John Lester going up against former Cub Rule 5 draft pick Caleb Smith, who is 3-0 with a 2 ERA. So, he's been really good, and the Cubs took him with the Rule 5, and he, was unable to stick in a crowded bullpen. But that's Lester, who's even better, 2-1 with a 173 going into Tuesday. So hopefully this doesn't sound wildly outdated, by the time you hear where it's like Lester got his tits lit up for 40.
I mean, he's been so good that we haven't even mentioned how that's happened in the past week, that day game against the Mariners where he just absolutely carved them up.
Yeah, he's
been fantastic.
The velocity's good, he looks great. I mean, the stuff is good. It's not just being a crafty veteran guy. The stuff looks pretty good, the stuff looks crisp, and that's awesome to see. Yeah, really, and looking at the whole roster, it's like Schwarber has had a little bit of a better week, and he's really the last guy we're waiting to go be himself again. I mean, Almora's been down too, but
Right. Yeah, and I mean, Schwarber had the big home run against the Mariners.
Mm-hmm. He had a game-winning home run there, and on Monday night, he had a tough at-bat with a bunch of runners on, struck out, but then, also had...
Go-ahead hit.
Yeah, go-ahead hit.
What would have been the game-winning hit.
Mm-hmm, exactly, took a walk, so... and even in the game before that, he almost went oppo. Really good swing, good at-bat, and really, I hope, almost like we hope the Anthony Rizzo two-strike approach would be a little more contagious within this team. I would like to see the way Javy goes opposite field be a little more contagious too, especially with a guy like Schwarber too, who has all the strength in the world to knock it wherever he wants the other way too. I mean, don't get me wrong, the 450-foot game-winning bombs to right are great, and Kyle Schwarber still has, I think he hit the longest home run I ever saw in person at Citi Field.
We were there. Yeah, in different seats, but onto the walkway.
He hit it to the seafood place, which is hard to walk to. It's like,
you know what? I think I was with Ken at that game, and I had said to him, do you think anyone's ever hit it up there? And not long after Schwarber did, and I think I shook Ken's small frame.
Just shook him
very
around.
Violently, yeah.
Yeah, Ken was able to survive. So he is, and we will actually be. I guess that's in a couple of weeks. But you, myself, and Ken will be in St. Louis. Away Games hits the road. We'll be there for the Cubs Cardinals series, first week of June, right?
Hell yeah.
It's
gonna be boring.
Yeah, it's gonna be real boring, bro. Can't wait to bore my ass off. All right, what else am I missing from this week? Anything?
I don't think anything too substantial. You swallow a fly over there?
Yeah, I'm just constantly in a state of mishealth. I think.
No, that's not true. You can't see it, but Kevin's in the best shape of his life.
I am in the best shape of my life, bod-wise. The inner workings, I think, are still troublesome. But yeah. I did want to say specifically, I was so excited about the hiring of pitching coach Tommy Hotovy. Mm-hmm. And I think the way we've seen not only the pitching get better, which some of that's progression to the mean, just more of them becoming who we thought they were. But so many of them have made distinct adjustments that have worked out so well. I am very excited about Tommy Hotovy, pitching coach. I was before the season, very excited right now. And Anthony Iapoce as the hitting coach, too. I mean, all thumbs up on this shit,
Yeah, I agree. And I think if we're going to blame some of the former pitching and hitting coaches for, things that we wish had gone better, I think it's only fair to give them some or a lot of credit for what's gone right this year.
Yeah, like I've said a bunch of times before, either managing and coaching, either it matters or it doesn't. If it matters, it matters in both directions. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, absolutely.
And to that end, I think that Madden has done a fantastic job this year.
Also that. I don't know how you don't give this guy an extension at the end of the year, honestly. We'll see, but so far, pretty good run, I think.
Yeah. I'd like to give him an extension during the year.
Yeah, me too. Do it today. I would be perfectly cool with that. Cool. All right. So that's an episode. We've got follow us on Twitter and on Instagram at awaygamespod on both of those. Comment at us, awaygamespodcast@gmail.com if you want to holler at us about anything else. Thank you for the reviews and ratings on iTunes. If you do like us, please do give us a review and a rating. And Adam, I saw we got a shout out from another podcast, did we not?
Yeah, who was that from? I don't have my phone.
Leadoff Slam Pod at Leadoff Slam Pod, which is another baseball podcast, gave us a shout out. So that was very nice of them.
Do we want to do a quick prediction before we
wrap
it up?
Yeah, we've been doing that. We've been pretty good at it lately. Actually.
Yeah, if anything, we've been under guessing.
Got it exactly the week before, and then
I think you said split against the Mariners, 2 of 3 against the Cardinals, beat the Marlins.
I did. So I was 1 game off overall.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
So I don't know about you. I don't want to accept that bargain that I asked you about, where the Cubs lose 3 or 4 to the Marlins. I think they should win the next 3 games against the Marlins. I'm going to say they'll split the series against the Marlins, so win the next 2 of 3. Then win 2 of 3 from Milwaukee, and then I don't know who they have on Tuesday. Probably
that's what I was thinking too. 4-2 over the next, and then 2 of 3 and 2 of 3 of Miami and Milwaukee, and then on Tuesday, which will be the last game played before our next podcast airs, as we come out every Wednesday. If you didn't know, that would be at Cincinnati.
Okay,
so win that.
Yeah, win that. Avoid the bees and.
Avoid the bees.
Will take care of it. Did you see him in his beekeeper suit?
I did. Pretty great.
He's the best.
He's great. Also, Derek Dietrich is a weird, fun guy apparently on the Reds too.
Oh yeah. Did you see his eye black mustache?
Yeah, he went out playing with it. Just like this guy doesn't give a shit. It's great.
Well, he was the guy who pimped the home run against Chris Archer that caused that whole brawl.
It's great.
I like Dietrich.
Yeah, Dietrich seems cool. Come on the pod, Dietrich.
The Marlins, he hit a game-winning. I don't know if it was a walk-off home run or some big triple, and he just ripped his shirt off and just looked in shape to a point that truly concerns me.
Yeah, man. Maybe this guy. Yeah, he seems like a weird. It's always nice to get a new weird, fun guy to have an opinion about on another team. Like
his body is the anti-Astudillo.
He and Williams Astudillo are at the opposite ends of the line, where it's like baseball players can be anything, this guy or this guy. Sweet. So let's go. Let's see the Cubs go 5-2 this week, and then we'll be very happy about it.
All right,
sweet. Thanks for listening, everybody. Catch you next week.